Well, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining me so early. I suddenly looked out and the sun was absolutely stunning. I thought I'd take you on a very quick stroll this morning. Those of you who joined me yesterday, thank you for that. The reason I thought I'd get up so particularly early is the bird song at this time of the day is just simply stunning. Those of you just waking up, good morning. Those of you just going to bed, hope you had a fantastic day. And yesterday we had a superb good morning. How are you? All the way over there, fantastic. Kamal, where are you at the moment, Kamal? What I love about living in the heart of London is that we get to fantastic sights and sounds right here on my doorstep, and the joy of it is that we can walk around, and as London is coming back to life, we realise that it's really quite stunning. SW1, you're, for good heavens, there you go. Always a thrill. I thought you were going to be somewhere in Japan. We have people from Japan and from Korea and various other places. I'm just walking you here in the heart of what I call the lungs of London. This is the heart of Regent's Park. The park itself doesn't open until 5 o'clock, so it's a little bit earlier than that, but we like an early morning. And what was wonderful, all of those who joined me yesterday, we went on a fantastic tour of London with my good mate Mike Reed and my business partner and friend RJ Gibb, and we had a look at, with KTT and GSI, we had a look at all the amazing places which were associated with the Bee Gees, and it was a fantastic start to the day. We went down to the very first recording studios that they had on Portland Place. We also then went along to the Langham Hotel, where they conducted a lot of their live interviews rather than recorded, so they'd see a lot of the press there in the Langham Hotel. We then spent some time at the BBC and walked along and saw not just the BBC Radio but also BBC TV. After that we then saw the Regent Street Cinema, which those of you who know will remember that the Regent Street Cinema was the very first cinema in the UK. And the bit that I love is when you wake up of a morning, and this for me is just one of the most beautiful times of the day. But it's basically just wandering around and enjoying London at its very, very best. A lot of people start their morning show with some fantastic music, and we always love all of that. There's one of the things they're changing at the moment is the 2-metre rule here in London, and after a lot of discussions we announced it here first on Octopus TV. And what happened is that following a bit of consultation with shop owners and various other things, they thought that 2 meters was going to be relaxed in certain situations where it's not possible to stay 2 meters apart. And the reason for that, the reason was that it means that retail and restaurants have a chance of opening up. They have a chance of trying to do something a little bit different, albeit all the preparations that they're making. And we went on our walk yesterday. You would have seen I took you into lots of shops on the way in the West End. I took you to lots of shops right in the heart of London, in the heart of London's retail. And what we saw was the reality is that even though the shops are open and people are there and looking for business, very few people have come out. And as a result of that, it means that the shops are obviously in a very difficult position, especially the independent retailers who are dependent on traffic. But even the huge ones, we went into Nike yesterday on Oxford Circus. I went into Hamleys again, and you can see all the live footage. If you haven't subscribed, do go along to Octopus TV. It is so good to have you all along. And what I love is that it's a real thrill to see other more than the people around the world that we know. Over here, I always show you, this is the exit to the theatre. This is the Regent's Park Theatre. Over there they have a building called The Home, which is a private residence. And people every now and again, they can open up the doors and you can see what's going on. But what I love, and maybe there's lessons to be learnt from all these glorious birds as they wake up, is that a little bit of bird song is a great way of doing things. Maybe we should all wake up with a song. They always say that if you have a little soundtrack to your life, you wonder what that might be. But I thought I'd just bring you nice and bright and breezy to the heart of London so you can wake up in style. Because waking up in style is what it's all about. And I think that there's no better way of getting the morning underway. We heard from the government July the 4th, Independence Day. Everything's going to be stunning. We're going to be able to open up and cinemas, restaurants, various other places which we've all been desperate to get to are opening up. And the good news is that a lot of preparations have already been made. Haircuts, locked down in lockdown, all looking particularly shaggy. Well, those hairdressers will be opening up as well. I've already booked my appointment, so a joy that will be. And the fun thing is this, is that we will all be able to celebrate my birthday in style, because my birthday is 7th of the 7th every year. Always a thrill. I love this way we have these wacky numbers. Everything's like a 7-7. Everything's balanced. The reason we do 5:55 live at 5:55. The one when we started the Bee Gees walk yesterday was 1-1-1-1. It's all important. And the reason it's important is there's balance. And that's one of the things I love to do, is talk about balance, because in this world, so many people have different prejudices, so many different thoughts on how things should be. And the reality is, if you balance things, if you say, look, treat everything the same, let's redress those which are not in balance, the world will be a much better place. And I think a lot of the big issues, it's about communication. And if people have particular understandings and they know what people are doing and you see things from somebody else's perspective, then I think you'll find that that sort of understanding will lead to all sorts of problems which are otherwise dealing with us in this world. You'll be able to make that make sense. Now, I took you earlier to St John's Lodge, and this is one of the most peaceful gardens in London. It's a garden fit for meditation, and it is absolutely stunning. And one of the things I do find is that the world is confirming their own prejudices. The reason I always talk about the news and what happens there is always a sad version of events, always coming from a particular angle, which is why I always urge people to get their news from many different sources, and that's what we do. We might start with the BBC, go over to ITV, look at Sky, go and watch Fox. Morning, Steve, nice that you could join us. And this is one of the most glorious gardens here in the heart of London. A little bit early for them, but I have taken you in here before, and that's St John's Lodge Garden, and this was built for a place for meditation. So as you wake up this morning, and there's lots of you waking up this morning, it's a real joy. Firstly, thank heavens you woke up this morning. That's always a thrill. We're always a little bit earlier than a lot of people. As I say, they're revising these rules. It was a glorious day yesterday. We walked all round London. Morning, Steve. How lovely to see you. We walked all round London and showed you all the places that were associated with the Bee Gees. And what I loved about it is that we had literally thousands upon thousands of people joining me live on these walks. And it all started a few weeks ago, and it's a couple of weeks, it's not that long actually, when London Zoo opened. And what happened with London Zoo is I thought I'd pop along and see the start as members, and I thought, well, it was empty, and I was quite shocked. I thought, well, interestingly, there's a lot of people who see all these news reports of what's going on, and I thought that I would show people live, just with my phone, press on the live button, and then people can actually see at the same time as I'm seeing what's happening, because the reality is that the newspaper reports, they like the sensation. This is what, everything's the worst it could ever be, everything is a nightmare. And the reality is not always a nightmare. You know, life is pretty good sometimes. And I think if you look for the good in things, you'll find that life can be a lot better. And so I thought the easiest way of doing that is just bring people along, show them live what's happening. So when you have all these reports about the world and London being crowded and people rushing in, yes, I'm sure that probably was true at that particular moment. But then do the report as well, showing that London is no longer crowded. So we went down yesterday. I had a look at the retail in the most normally thriving part of London, which is the centre of Oxford Street and also down Regent Street. And I had Mike Reed with me via his connection, and RJ Gibb, son of Robin Gibb, was with me. Again, remotely, not only appropriately socially distanced, but many miles apart. And what happened is we walked around London and we had a look at all things to do with the Bee Gees, the fantastic studios, the BBC, the Speakeasy Club. It was a glorious day. I think we walked, or I walked, they were in the comfort of their homes, lucky them. But I walked for about 6 hours, just taking you round London, divided into nice little bite-sized chunks. The Marceau version we did for the first hour, just in silence, and then put a soundtrack to that afterwards, just to show you the sights. And then lots of different sections, all the way down to Bomber Command, which Robin Gibb spent so much time campaigning to have erected down in Hyde Park Corner. And a glorious morning that was too. We love it. It was always a thrill. So this is the centre of Regent's Park, which I took you to before. We've been here many times. This is the Rose Garden, from a different perspective. Not least because it's all locked up at this time of the morning. They actually don't unlock it until 5 o'clock, which gives you an idea of just how early it is. But I woke up this morning and it was the most glorious sunrise, and I thought, wow, go on, we'll have a little wander and see what happens. So don't forget that if you do want to see more exciting content, I've got some fantastic guests coming up. Listen to the sound of the bird songs, isn't it? Morning, Cancho. Hope you're well. It's always good to see you. We're up nice and bright and breezy of a morning because it's glorious, absolutely glorious yesterday. And I thought the sound of bird song would start you off, finish your week on a Friday in a beautiful way. As London is opening up, it's going to get more and more crowded. I assume it's going to get more crowded. But we saw yesterday that wasn't that crowded really. It's good to see you, Cancho. How are you? What I love about this, it's live and unleashed in London. It's always a thrill. We've been starting these programmes just in lockdown. And the extraordinary things, apart from the live shows, which I do when I just wander, and you can join me, you're very welcome to wander with me. We also have recorded over 500 different interviews with the rich and famous and also everyday folk, and talking to them about their lives and what that has been in lockdown. We've also had the great experience of bringing new people who've got a fantastic skill set to share those skills with you. So we've had chess champions, we've had looking at gliding, we've looking at people who are on boats, and for all of those we're basically looking at ways that we can teach you the tennis court down at Regent's Park, where you can hire these tennis courts out. Most tennis courts you can hire out. Weather reports. We're getting weather reports from around the world. We have blizzards all the way down in Australia. We have storms in Surrey, Steve's telling us. I hope we're surviving those storms. It's starting actually to be a little bit wet today, so having had the heat yesterday, we basically are having a little spit at the moment. But storms in Surrey, a plague of locusts, all these different things. I mean, it's extraordinary weather. I mean, yesterday was baking hot. Only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Well, I was in that midday sun, walking you all the way round the glorious parts of London and taking you, let me take you by the hand, I'll lead you through the streets of London. Well, I love it, and the real joy of this, as I say, is that we get to interact with people. We get to hear directly from the source what's going on in the world. And I'm a big advocate of this, is that we should question everything. We should look at independent, sourced, evidence-based journalism. I took you, for example, to Westminster yesterday, and the last report, the last image that people have in Westminster was Westminster Square, and with Churchill all covered up, maybe covered in graffiti. And I thought, well, let's go and have a look. And I walked you round the square, and firstly, the most extraordinary thing is that there was nobody else, just us. And we thought, well, okay, let's go and have a look and see these statues, and the amazing statues from Gandhi to Peel to Winston Churchill himself. And the reality is that because there was nobody there, the statues are standing, there's no graffiti on them, and they're not in boxes, and it looks great, fantastic. But we haven't seen that on the news yet. I also took you along to Downing Street, so we had a good chat with the people there, and you can check that out. And some sensational things were revealed, which we normally talk about, which were thrilling, but it was great, absolutely great to see everybody. And thank you so much for those who stayed with us. We were on the road. Morning, Paul Gordon. Well, it's always a thrill. I tell you nice and early, Paul. This has now become a competition with Paul and me. Paul, what I love is that Paul's up and he wanders around his place. He's attacked by flies, and it's always a thrill. And he's started these challenges for magicians and performers and things like that. But just listen to this. Here we are. Well, you're asking for magic, Paul. This is magic. This is what Paul wanted. Paul wanted more performance-based magic. It doesn't get more magical than a bird song early in the morning. The perfect way to start the day. Or you could do a card trick, I suppose. Don't forget, buy Paul Gordon's books. We love Paul Gordon's books. It's always a joy. And what I love, and this is what I genuinely love, is that we mix with all sorts of extraordinary people. And the ones who really appeal to me are the ones who've got a fantastic sense of humour. Because we're all the same. Doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter where we are, doesn't matter how different things work out. The fact is we're all the same. We don't need to put on these airs and graces. We don't need to be in performance mode all of the time. Just be real, you know. And I think one of the things that Paul and I always talk about is mental health. Because it used to be such a stigma. And if you broke your leg, people would sign the cast and ask you how you broke it. Do anything, it's all visible, those sort of, we all suffer and you can risk broken bones. But previously, if you had a mental illness, then the reality, magical is the word you're looking for, Paul, because that was your challenge. It's not beautiful. I know it's beautiful, you can do better than that. Go to a thesaurus, look up the word magical. You are some magical performance. We can perform our song and dance in the middle of Regent's Park. It's always a thrill. What I'm saying is that everybody's the same. If you prick me, do I not bleed? But also, what you'll forget from that particular Shakespearean quote, if you tickle me, do I not laugh? And what I love, once you've peeled away the layers, you can work out that people are the same. We all suffer from the same difficulties, the same challenges in life, some more than others. And I think what we should do, we should talk about it. Let us be the generation that removes the stigma of mental illness, so that the next generation doesn't have to suffer it. And one of the things we set up, or I set up, was canned laughter, which has been a lot for the people. Gorgeous, stunning. Yeah, not bad, Paul. Magical's the word you wanted. That was your challenge word, magical. Magical. This wins the prize of magical. Stunning, gorgeous. What about the weather, Paul? What about Regent's Park? I know I'm stunning and gorgeous and you're very sweet. But here we are in the middle of the road, just to prove that it's empty. But this is my backyard. And what I love about that, going out of the video, the thunder and lightning. Good heavens, poor old Steve. Thunder and lightning where he is. Well, he's got little dribbles. Everyone has a struggle of some sort. It's true, Paul. Everybody does have a struggle of some sort. And I think the more we can talk about it, and Paul's a great advocate for this, and what I love, we do it with humour. We don't have to always put the dark side of everything, but just to recognise that there are those difficulties. And most important, there are people who are sharing those difficulties. And we can learn from their experiences. So what I've got the rich and the famous and everyday folk coming on to the more formal show. Not that there's much formality in anything I do, but actually that's not true. There's sometimes when it needs to be formal, I'm incredibly formal and respectful. But I'm the most wonderful times being a little bit mischievous, which is always fun. And what we find is that the rich and the famous, those people who talk about stuff, are the ones who can really benefit lots of other people. And we've spoken about all sorts of challenging issues, every possible thing, and nothing surprises us. That we've all been here before, and because we've all been here before, it means that various things will affect other people in different ways. When I say we've all been here before, I'm not saying that this is a reincarnation or anything. What I'm saying is that we've all been through these challenges, and that people in this life, every possible challenge, it was always amazing. You always never think your parents have ever gone through any challenges, but of course different eras they may well have been, but the challenges were still there, and in different things, and what affects people can affect different people in different ways. And as you're joining me here on a fantastic Friday right in the heart of London, you'll see that life is and can be really rather special. And what I would urge you to do at the end of the week, as things start to open up, just remember these wonderful moments that we've had thinking about other people, when a lot of people have been in isolation during this period, and the difficulty and the hardship that they've had. I've been blessed with my lockdown, really, is the honest answer, because my lockdown, one of the most glorious places in the world, I get spoiled, but I can wander around. The thing is, what you'll find is there's a great way of dealing with life. If you do turn around and find it. So one of the reasons I walk around London is to show you, look, London's free and accessible for everybody. And the places that we visited are simply stunning. Today I am delighted that I'm going to be joined interviewing the wonderful Ian Freeman, who is part of the fantastic family of the Lord Grade and the Belafontes, and he is the treasurer of the Royal Variety charity, who raised lots of money for Brinsworth House, right the way down there on the way to Staines, and they do a phenomenal job in the care homes for people in the profession, the acting, the entertainment profession. And I'll be talking to him about his rich life in the entertainment industry, but also about, obviously, the different people and the Grades, his cousin Michael Grade, and also the Belafontes, and the golden era, if you like, of theatre, because we're struggling now with theatre. And I think the reality is that we need to have a look and see, because I think at the moment, unless people have a look and see, that arrow sign will be pointing down, and that'll be the end of all sorts of theatres. And I think we can turn it round. Here we are. This is magical. Here's a trick for you, Paul. What's this trick? There you go. I thank you. And look at that, it's now up. Oh no, look at that. But funnily enough, it says you can't rotate your phone when it's here. When you're live. That'll teach me. Can't rotate. Anyway, teach you all sorts of things. Listen, I will see you a little bit later. It is fantastic to see you so bright and breezy in the morning. I thought I'd get up and give you the sights and sounds of London on this glorious day. It is always a pleasure to have you along. Whatever you're doing today, don't forget, do tune in to Octopus TV. Go over and subscribe on YouTube. Join me on Daily Motion and stalk me wherever you fancy. It's got to be good. I did a gig. Oh, did you? Oh, for heaven's sake, look, Paul Gordon's done a gig for everybody, you know. I get my old mate Mike Reed on yesterday, and he says, look, all those years ago, Mike would have remembered me because for 30 seconds I showed him a card trick. But I love it. Paul Gordon has indeed performed for everybody. So Lou and Bernard, eons ago. Fantastic. Well, what I'll do, I did say this to Paul, and I'm sure I love surprising people, and I love surprises. Don't forget, July the 7th is my birthday. Try and see how you can surprise me. July the 7th. Maybe I'll get a Paul Gordon book. I'll get a rare unsigned one. That'll be a thrill. So it'll be always a joy. But every day, this is what we love about it, is that every day people come on and we all make an absolute bit of a laugh. So do join me, do go and subscribe on Octopus TV, do follow on Facebook, do share, and whatever you do, have a bit of fun. You're very, very welcome. And there are topics you want to discuss, the people you want to see, it's all going to happen here on Octopus TV. But for now, have a wonderful start to your day. I've been Andrew Eborn, you've been great, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.